Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm going to be going over a full movement guide for the highest skill capped agent in the game, RAZE. And the beauty of RAZE is that the more time you put in with the agent, the farther you can go, the faster you can peek, and the faster you can get accurate shots off, all by optimizing the movement that the agent is so uniquely capable of. Even to the point where RAZE can get lightning fast peeks off where no other agent in the entire game can come close to matching her speeds, which is why RAZE always has and honestly always will have a huge staple position in the meta of Valorant. Because while she may be difficult to get started with, the possibilities are endless, and the people who are putting the time in to master her are rising to the top, even in pro play. And my goal is to help you guys speed that process up by going in depth with all of the current movement strategies, from the most basics of optimizing the single satchel jumps and peaks, all the way to the triple jumps that send you flying across a bomb site. But as always, before we get too deep into the video, we have to start with our question of the day. And today I want to ask you, how do you feel about Bind in Valorant? Personally, I love the map at first, and all the way since beta it was probably top 2 maps for me, but recently it seems like people are starting to hate the map more and more because the entrances to the sites are so narrow that any piece of utility completely halts a push in its tracks. It almost feels like Bind has become the next version of the old Split, where the entranceways are so narrow that as long as you don't peek and die early on defense, you can utility spam a push and destroy teams that are attacking you. Maybe with some small reworks where a hookah is easier to jump out of, or the entrances to the bomb sites are opened up a little more, the map would just be more fun, or maybe everyone is just overreacting a bit. But I'm sure a ton of you guys completely disagree with me, which is exactly why I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments down below how you feel about Bind. Now, first things first, we have to start with the basics, the single blast pack jump. Now, RAZE's blast pack explodes, doing damage and pushing anything in a 6-meter radius in a direct line away from the initial blast pack. And the speed you move from the blast pack depends on how close you are to the pack and the angle the pack is in relation to your body when it explodes. And since we know that, how can we use that knowledge to make our movement more fluid and more effective? Well, the 3 main movements that you're going to be doing with single satchels is a corner peek, covering ground, and repositioning. And the main difference between the way you do these movements is primarily based around your position towards the blast pack when you decide to explode it. So let's start with the corner peek, because honestly it's the most overpowered peeking tool in the game and almost impossible to react to. Now, traditionally the satchel peek would be throwing the blast pack on the ground, running past it, and exploding it to go flying into the air past the angle to land and get accurate shots off after you land. Now, this causes 2 problems. The first being, whenever you land from being in the air, your crosshair and camera bob downwards and back up whenever you hit the ground. Now, this is very disorienting and often causes you to not get accurate shots off, or to take longer to get your crosshair on target after you land. And the other reason is because a few times Riot has actually tweaked how quickly you can be accurate after jumping in the air to get rid of these jump peek mechanics, and the time to accuracy is now much higher than if you stayed on the ground the entire time. So instead of leaving the ground, you essentially want to slide past the corner, which also looks way cooler than just bouncing by. Now, with this strategy, it's very simple. You want to throw the blast pack on a wall near you, and it's important that you don't throw it beside you and explode it instantly, because with this quicker peek, you want to give yourself the time to pull out your gun and prepare to shoot, because this peek is fast enough to get accurate shots off faster than your pullout time actually is. And on the wall, you want to throw the blast pack slightly below where your character's waist level would be. If the throw is too high, your momentum will be lost by being pushed into the ground a little too much, and too low will send you into the air, and just below waist level will give you the highest speed and distance that you'll get from the blast pack. Now, you want to be as close to the satchel as you can whenever you explode it for the maximum speed, but also remember, you want to be moving in the direction that you want to slide before you ever even explode the pack, because that momentum does carry over, so it's just extra speed that you might as well make use of. And this should honestly be your go-to peek whenever you expect an enemy to be holding an angle, and it's incredible for early round peeks to get to an angle way before an enemy expects you to be able to. And then we have covering ground. Now, this one is a lot simpler. To get the maximum distance going forward, which is going to be your usual blast pack, you want the satchel to be about 30 degrees below your feet whenever you explode it. And maybe that sounds complicated, but essentially you just want to jump from 2 to 3 meters before you reach the blast pack at full speed with a knife out, and explode the blast pack whenever you're about halfway down from your jump. And that will essentially be a 30-degree angle, and that 30-degree angle is something you're going to want to get used to. And to get a feel for it, you can throw your blast pack down in the practice range at the far black line at this threshold between the door, and jump from the first black line that you see here. This will give you the feel for what it's like to hit the jump just right, and from there you can focus on hitting it at that angle because it's going to be the baseline for double satcheling and triple jumps as well. So getting it down now is better for you in the long run. And finally, we have repositioning. And repositioning is going to be your quick satchel throws that get you out of a sticky situation. Maybe you're dodging utility or you just want to get back behind cover before you get swung by another enemy. But with this, you're usually not trying to be very precise. You're usually just throwing it to get yourself out of a situation quickly, but you want to try to ingrain the muscle memory, and the way that you're going to be doing this is to throw the satchel towards the ground and not directly beside you. That way you're getting a little bit of lift off from the ground to create less friction to stop your movement even less, and that vertical change will throw off the enemy's shots if they do peek you. And then the other option is to throw the satchel directly to your side and jump before exploding it. And that way you're still getting lift off, but can be a little better for shorter distances that you need to cover to get back on your feet quicker. But one of the most important things to learn about repositioning satchels is air strafing. But before we move on, remember, if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. It's also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. Now, air strafing. If you haven't already learned the tactic, it's actually very simple and just requires a little muscle memory to get used to it. And combining it with your satchel jumps can help cut insane corners at very high speeds. And air strafe is simply whenever you strafe in the air, but there is a bit more nuance to it than that. You want to be able to maintain your momentum as well, and it actually speeds up your jump if you do it correctly. Take a look at this jump on Icebox, for example. A straight on jump results in not landing on top of the box very often, but by air strafing back and forth, you actually gain a little bit of speed and are able to land on top of the box much more consistently. This is because forward movement is acceleration, but left and right movement is also acceleration. So when you're in the air, that acceleration combined with proper strafing can push that momentum forward. So how do you do this? Well, whenever you're in the air, move your mouse to the right and hold your D key to move right as well. And whenever you're moving your mouse to the left, let go of D and hold A instead to strafe to the left. And thankfully in Valorant, we can keep holding our W key the entire time so we maintain our momentum even when we're not perfect. Unlike in other games like CSGO where you would lose a lot of momentum. And an easy way to practice this is to try to stand on top of a box and jump straight off of the box while moving and attempt to turn around in the air and land back on the box. If you turn too fast, you'll spin out and lose momentum, but if you turn too slow, you won't quite make it back. And once you're able to do this both ways on a box, you've essentially learned air strafing. And the other tactic that you're going to want to learn when learning to move with RAZE is bunny hopping. Now, we did a full guide on bunny hopping on this channel, so if you need more help, I highly recommend checking that video out. But bunny hopping combines the air strafe with another jump. Whenever you hit the ground in Valorant, your head bobs and you lose all of your excess momentum to less than you started with just after. And then you build it back up as you continue to move. But there is a small period right in the middle where your feet touch the ground where you can jump again before the momentum starts to go away. And to do this, technically you can get really good at timing it or just be super fast at spamming your spacebar, but instead it's so much easier to bind scroll wheel up or scroll wheel down to your jump mechanic. And whenever you're about to hit the ground, just spin your scroll wheel. This way you maintain your momentum, and whenever you're coming out of your satchel at super high speeds, it would be a shame to lose that momentum unless you're stopping to shoot, when you can instead bunny hop and carry over that momentum into another jump to cover even more distance. And I can't tell you how many times this has saved me by getting me that extra little distance to get into a smoke or get out into cover so I don't die immediately when I double satchel into a site. And combining both of those tactics with your satchels are going to make a huge difference in your movement. But next up we have the double satchel, and if you've mastered the single satchel, this actually isn't that much more difficult. The double satchel essentially comes down to developing the muscle memory of where to look and the timing of the explosion. Now try to remember the 30-degree rule. You essentially want the satchel to be about 30 degrees below your feet whenever you're exploding the satchel. And you can get very close to this metric by looking straight down and satcheling right after you throw your first one. But optimally, you want to explode your second satchel right before you start to decelerate off of the first satchel, which is just past the halfway point of your flight. And the optimal point to throw your satchel is very slightly forward and not directly straight down. Now this is a relatively small benefit, but it's the difference between making some of those really hard double satchels, like getting up into A Heaven's Rafter from the A main spot of split. And honestly, this is just going to take some time to get used to, but once you have it down, you basically never use it and it becomes second nature. But finally, we have the triple jump. This is the Instagram and TikTok clip that everyone looks for on RAZE because while it's so difficult to pull off and very risky, it is awesome whenever it works. But even not accounting for the flashy aspect of the movement, there is a huge lesson to learn. To make this work properly, you have to activate your ultimate just before you throw your second satchel. This way, you cancel your ult animation. And with that, you're able to get your ultimate off without hitting the ground, and with the RAZE nerf, the pullout time is one of the biggest limiting factors for utilizing RAZE's ult to its highest degree. So this way, learning to animation cancel with your satchel is huge, and you can even do it with single satchels when you want to just enter a bomb site with your ultimate. That way, you give the enemies less time to get out of the way. But the triple satchel is exactly the same as the double satchel. But instead of throwing your second satchel, you're going to pop your ultimate just before you throw your second satchel, and blast your ultimate in the opposite direction while you're flying to get that extra little bit of boost. And this strategy is great for really long entrances to certain bomb sites, like B and A side of Ascent. You can do the standard double satchel to get yourself into market, but activate your ult in the middle to give yourself enough boost to get into CT immediately, and not to mention you can actually clear out your logs with this ultimate so your ult isn't getting completely wasted just to give you a little bit of movement. Now this is a niche tactic, but whenever you have a team aggressive and fast enough to follow you in, this is an insanely strong strategy to get behind the enemy team and make the site nearly impossible to hold. But remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. But what do you guys think about the skill cap of RAZE's movement? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton more comprehensive premium guides coming your way. And as always, I want to thank you for spending this a little bit of your day with us, and I'm Notorious Dub, signing off.